Let's talk for a minute about the code of conduct. Now, it can just be not have one. Let's face it, every classroom has a code of conduct, implied or agreed upon. But everyone has one, right? And it can be a chaotic code of conduct, or it can be a thoughtful one. So, why are the code of conduct important? Because doesn't it allow you to take all the boundaries, everyone's collective boundaries, and put them on a piece of paper in an agreed upon manner? So, if you were putting together a code of conduct, what would you think about are the important things to think about in that code of conduct? Does anyone want to start?
Shared values and beliefs in your classroom.
Let's say, like, to make sure that it meets everybody's needs.
Right.
And honors the children.
It honors the children it meets.
Define what behaviors in the classroom is acceptable and not acceptable. So if someone does act with, say, toxic behavior, then how the team will address it, and then how the team will address it, and then when it would go to admin.
Would the code of conduct for primary 2 be the same as level 2?
No.
Why?
Because
I have different needs.
You have different needs?
Yes.
Because of the children or because of the teachers?
It'd probably be because of the children.
Because of the teachers. Every teaching team has its own personality.
It's actually both.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right, so it's not, code of conduct cannot be boilerplate, can it? It's
Okay.
got to be highly personal to the situation in that classroom. What are some other key things that need to be in a code of conduct? To me, the behaviors that are tearing the team down have to be explicitly addressed in a code of conduct.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Will this be changed if there is new team member in the room? Can it influence the dynamic of the room? Do you need to reevaluate something?
Yes.
I would think that you would need to reevaluate it as your team, if your team stays together, like if you have a code of conduct, say this year, and then your team evolves and they grow, and some of the toxic behaviors that were, say, here in August may not be there in June, so then you may want to reevaluate so that your team continuously grows together. There may be other concerns or other behaviors or other things that may need to be addressed.
Well, so that would mean, like, in a code of conduct, one of the points should be a tangible date or a specific time to reevaluate, to make sure, look, whether it be quarterly or annually, that way you're keeping consistent with it and keeping it fresh.
And help the team to grow?
Yes.
Sure.
So why don't we? Why do we all go with, is the word implicit codes of conduct and not explicit? As a society or as people?
Because it's easier. I mean, it's
Human
it's,
nature.
yeah, it's
Nature.
human. That's exactly what it is. Because it's easier to know your code of conduct, to know your boundaries, and to just act on that. But when you have 6 other teachers or 3 other teachers, there's a lot of give and take in there. Like, you sometimes have to lower, not necessarily lower, but yield to somebody else, and that takes part of your thought process away, or to part of what you believe, and combining it with somebody else. So it takes work. It's like a marriage. It takes work.
It has to be compromises.
There have to be.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to compromise your classroom or your children, obviously, but like you said, there's got to be that give and take.
Do you see though, if, we did this whole discussion on boundaries, how if you really don't memorialize it through a living and dynamic code of conduct, it'll really never, unless you're lucky like you were and end up with 4 teachers with clear boundaries, you're leaving it to happenstance, right? But it is hard to do. I know, Priscilla, you guys have started it, but it hasn't taken a lot of momentum
No, it hasn't.
because
I don't know. There's still teachers that have soft boundaries in there, and I believe that this code of conduct won't be taken seriously until teachers really feel like their needs are being heard and met within this code of conduct. So there's going to be, their needs to be a lot of tough conversations where people are honest and where they're truthful and where they're just letting out what they really need, what they really don't like in the classroom, what is going on, what is really tearing down the classroom, how we're going to hold it accountable and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of tough conversations.
That's uncomfortable.
Yes, it is uncomfortable because, you know, you worry about, okay, after we have this meeting, is the person going to talk to us the next day? You know, and now the next meeting where we're still trying to have this conversation and there's a teacher that just go, nope. It's just like, okay, what do you do from there? Now it's trying to go back to the code of conduct, but if they're not following the code of conduct, it's like, what do we do from here?
Okay. Okay. Very good.